Babafururu erereo, owo kanyenye eleibo, eleri fumbati wasao, eibo rere bati wao, enuwa ye iagwao, eiaqueloro. Iamile, orun, iamile, orun, iapopoade, o de mi saramabo. Iamile, orun, babafururu erereo, owo kanyenye lebo.
Hello, my name is Maya Angelou. What is Africa to me? One 3 centuries removed from the lands my fathers loved, the spicy grove, the cinnamon tree. What is Africa to me? This is a question I ask myself and I ask Black Americans, and I attempt in this series to answer it to my satisfaction at any rate. If the African continent had never been opened for trade, legal and illegal, licit and illicit, slave and free, the planet as we know it would have a different face. And South America, North America, and the Caribbean would be unrecognizable. You recognize that game? That's jacks. I'm not very good. The game was brought to the United States by the slaves. It's still played in West Africa. Of course, there's plenty of rubber, so the children have balls, but the jacks, instead of jacks, they use stones. Do you know that Black American children play hide and seek, they call it hide and go seek, with a song, and the song is, last night, night before, 24 robbers at my door, who all is here? Ask me to let him in, hit him in the head with a rolling pin, who all is here? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, who all is here? 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, who all is here? Who all is here? Who all is here? All who ain't here, holler, I. We went to see some children playing hokey pokey in an alley in San Francisco the other day.
You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you put your left foot in, you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you put your left foot in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You put your right foot out, you put your right foot in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. And you put your head out, you put your head in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. You put your whole self in, you put your whole self out, you put your whole self in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. And you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Put your left foot in and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Hey, you put your head in, you put your head out, you put your head in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around.
hokey pokey. Now, I don't say that hokey pokey comes from hocus pocus, but if you want to draw that conclusion, it's up to you. Ham bone is a base for many wonderful black American dishes. Ham bone is also a cheap way to make music, and ham bone is a game. Ham bone, where you been? Been to the store and I'm gone again. Ham bone, have you heard? Daddy's gonna buy me a mockingbird. And if that mockingbird don't sing, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. Now, I think it's very easy to see those films, that film on the children, and to see Miss Breed do the ham bone, and see that there is an African influence here, not only in the rhythm, which is very obvious, but in the tonality and in the joy. Now, in Africa, when young children, boys and girls, have completed their puberty rites, they return to the village with a particular walk. Now, this motor behavior is carried over into the United States, so that we see black American young people walking in the streets of every city in the United States with a walk that talks about pride, dignity, and just a bit of arrogance. Now, when flirtation is added to that, it exaggerates a bit, and it's almost a dance. Now you see that that's almost a dance. Let's talk about dances. Since the days of the bunny hug, the jitterbug, the black bottom, obviously, the Charleston, the tango, the samba, the cha-cha-cha, the watusi, obviously, the frug, the jerk, the twist, we can trace those movements directly back to Africa. We're going to show some dances now. Mr. Duncan is going to do the authentic African movement, and Miss Breed is going to do the black American movement. The first movement is a dance called the agbele in West Africa, and Miss Breed is going to do the duck. We'll see how they look alike. The next movement is called, in the States, it's called the boogaloo, and everyone knows that. Well, in Africa, where it came from originally, it's an Ewe dance. And Mr. Duncan will do the Ewe step. Doing the boogaloo. That's it. That's it. Lovely. Makes me want to dance a little taste. There's an Ashanti dance that is lovely. It's smooth, it's graceful. In fact, it's royal. And there's a black American dance called the skate that has all the the elegance of the Ashanti dance. The Ashanti dance is this. Dance you won't find in the nightclubs or in popular spots in West Africa, but you will see it if you go to the continent. But this next dance you will see everywhere, wherever friends get together and intend to enjoy themselves. It's called the high life. The American corollary to it is the hunch. The high life is high life. The Ethiopian national dance is a very exciting dance, and it calls for a kind of concentration on certain muscles, just the shoulders. The Hully Gully is a Black American dance that calls for certain concentration on certain muscles. In this case, Miss Breed is going to do the Ethiopian national dance. I'll help her a little bit. And Mr. Duncan is going to do the Hully Gully. Now, there are movements that denote emotion. Now, unfortunately, the official poster put out by the State Department, or rather by the United States Army, to recruit personnel, latently offends some 25 million Black Americans, because Black Americans do not allow any person to point their finger directly at them. And the poster does say, Uncle Sam wants you. Well, with Black Americans, when you do that, they slap your finger out of the way and say, don't put your finger in my face. Now, in Africa, it is not only bad taste or taboo, it is against the law to point your finger directly at another human being. The dancers are going to show us how that looks in the Black American world. Looks kind of fierce, doesn't it? We're in the South. When children put their hands on their heads like this, Black parents tell them, absolutely, don't do it, it's bad luck. Well, in West Africa, when people mourn their loved ones, they put their hands on their heads. And when children in West Africa do the same thing, their parents tell them, don't do that, because you will bring bad luck upon the house, or upon the family, or upon our friends. The dancers are going to show us the movement. very sad. Now, there are stances that are African. If an African woman or a black American woman or a West Indian woman puts her hand on her hip like this, stands out a little and lets that hip go out this way, and her head is on this side, it's supposed to tell you that she doesn't believe you very much. But if she puts both hands on her hips and steps astride like that, you better believe she doesn't believe you, and you'd better make an exit fast. Those are African stances, African motor behaviors. Black Americans and South Americans of African descent and West Indians can hold conversations without saying any word, any true word. We might make a whole sentence just doing this. We also do chips. Now, in the West Indies, this particular thing is called the chips. In South Africa, South America, it's called the chips. And in Africa, it's called the chips. In the United States, it's called sucking your teeth. And black parents will tell you straight away, don't suck your teeth at me, and you can get a whipping. Young girls in Africa walk down the street and fellows say pleasant things to them, and they say, and ladies in their middle age say, but old women draw it out. I can't really do it. About a minute, they go. That's the chips. You can't really do it to anyone. Those are carryovers, African carryovers that have lasted 300 years under unbelievable circumstances. If you would have a man enslaved, the first thing you must do is prove to yourself that the man is subhuman. The second thing you must do is prove to your allies that the man is subhuman. But the third, and the unkindest cut of all, is to convince that man that he's subhuman and deserves his enslavement. When you do a proper job of this kind of brainwashing, then you no longer have to add to it. It's like rolling a ball downhill. I mean, it picks up its own momentum. Now, such a comprehensive job has been done on the black American that it's hard to say that he will know where he's going because he doesn't know where he's been. It's impossible for a human being to lay any blueprints for a future if he has no idea of his past. If he thinks his past was a dark, deep secret better left untalked about. Well, we don't. Today we are dealing with African survivals that allowed us to survive a brutish treatment without becoming brutes, a bestial treatment without becoming beasts. These are the survivals. There are things other than tangibles. There was a belief in the spirit of things that Africans brought to the United States, not in the things themselves. The belief in the spirit of a stone, or the spirit of a root, or the spirit of incense. Now, these are lodestones. We found them in San Francisco. These are used by lovers. The spirit of this lodestone is helpful to lovers, and the lodestones are supposed to be lucky for love. So, the Africans brought this kind of belief to the United States.
Active in financial matters. And purple is power. It says purple should be taken in small doses. In other words, it's a very strong candle.
Oh, right, yes.
Did you want to take the bath?
Yes.
Very good. Did you get the lotion? Yeah, here's the lotion. I want you to smell it. It's a beautiful fragrance. Hello, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Isn't that pretty? You like?
Yeah.
Now the idea would be to fill your tub half full of water. As your water's running into the tub, allow your oil to run in and say a prayer. Make this a personal prayer. Ask God to sanctify the water, to bless it, that it will cleanse you of anything ungodlike. Rinse your bottle out. And at this time, cup your hands in the water and make say a wish, or make a wish of your own. You get in the tub and you use soap. You take a bath and take the water and squeeze it and just let it run down over you. Stay in the tub 7 minutes or more. When you get out of the tub, there's a lotion. I don't have the lotion at my hand. Mac, hand me the lotion. The patchouli. It would be in the little front room. But you take the lotion, you put some of the lotion in your hand and rub your hands together, and then you put your hands behind your back and you dress down. You want to smell louder? It's a beautiful fragrance. He'll show you in a second. You dress yourself twice. In other words, you won't hurt.
Put it on. Do it twice on your head.
If you want to smell louder, because it has a very nice fragrance. Now this, as you see, is your zodiac bath. This you follow. This is the last bath. In other words, they use this behind this. This is often called a sealer. They say it seals bad out and good in. So that is the last bath. Now this is only one bath. It is quite a strong bath, as I will show you. There's 2 bottles in here, and both of them are very large. And you put them both in at the same time. See, one is a bath salts and one is a bath oil, and they go in at one time. See, that is only one bath, in other words.
Both of them at the
That
same
is the
time.
completion.
After you hold this for 7 days.
After you've done this for 7 days,
You
this
do
would
that
be
on
your
the
8th bath. Yes, that would be correct. Now then, you said you wanted wash and salted. The Master Book of Candle Burning tells you all about this. In dressing a candle, one never goes from the top to the bottom, or the bottom to the top. They take an oil, putting it on their hands, and they dress it with an oil that suits the purpose of what they're concentrating or praying for. And they put the oil on their hand, they dress the candle down, completely around, and then they dress it up, thinking or saying a prayer at the same time that they're doing this. Then they light the candle, leaving it burn until it has burned completely out.
How long is that usually?
A week.
Ah.
This will vary a little in time, but usually a week. It's called a 7-day candle.
Please explain to me about these black candles and red ones.
Mostly, I would say, to get rid of bad forces. Sometimes to turn a person around, to send them on their way, or, if it be red, to pull them to you. This one would be burned in a ritual also. Now, the rituals, I'm not too sure of how they go about them, but the people that buy them do use them in rituals.
Would they also be used to bring bad luck on a person?
Well, this one, as you can easily see, is a satanic candle. It represents Satan himself. People who would have possibly a bad force around them could burn this to eliminate or to get rid of. They also could reverse this candle and use it for bad. Of course, there's certain things that they would do that I wouldn't even know what. But it's as we think, so we do, or so we are.
Right.
This candle here is red, representing a person. This is a love candle. Red always represents love, and it means to draw to, or to pull someone toward you that you would be concerned about. Now, this candle here is a candle that I'm not too familiar with, but it is used in rituals. Just how, I wouldn't say, but it is used in this form. And of course, this is a black figure. And this would be to eliminate, or to get rid of, or to send someone on their way. In other words, to let them be on their way or to be gone.
I see. Now explain this.
Now this is a candle that's quite new to me. I sell a lot of them. This is called a black list. Now they write the person's name on this candle on the back. It has 9 times that you can write the name. And on the front of the candle it has various things that you could write next to his name, which would indicate what you wanted to happen to him.
Bad. The John the Conqueror wrote, and the Buckeye are good luck charms we find here on 24th Street in San Francisco, and they are found in Accra, Ghana, in Lome, Togoland, in Nigeria, and all over West Africa. One of the African carryovers that has been almost totally taken over by white Americans is the hospitality. Now, white Southerners are very proud of their Southern hospitality. I suggest that they learned that hospitality from the African slaves because only those families who had money enough to afford slaves had manners. The others are still as raw as they were when they came over here 300 years ago. Those that are called the rednecks and the crackers and the white po trash or po white trash, they are still as raw because they did not have the money to afford slaves who were able to tell them how to act, how to be nice. Our people say, when you come in, ask, take a seat, offer somebody a glass of lemonade, offer them some cake, and so forth. Make a person feel at home. This is an Africanism that lasts, of course, in the black American world, but it also lasts in the white American world. Southern white women who are so affected, who just faint almost if you look at them, or used to pretend to do so during the Southern slavery days, those women, I suggest, learned those affectations from African slave mammies, who said a nice woman is supposed to act a certain way. She's not supposed to talk too fast. She doesn't talk too loud. She moves very slowly. She doesn't react to things. Now, if we check back, if we trace the source, if we look at Europe during those periods, there were not those affectations among European white women. So obviously they must have come from somewhere. They weren't born out of the cypress trees along the plantation. So obviously the African mammy taught these women this. In West Africa, you may see a woman with a tray of yams on her head, 75 pounds worth of yams on her head, and she walks very easily without touching the tray. She comes to your door, takes it off without bends like that, and puts it on the porch, and you say to her, "Auntie, morning, how are you?" And she says, "Oh, as for me, I'm so tired, oh. I think you should try and bring me some tea." Now, it's my suggestion that there are no women in the world who love luxury and enjoy it and understand luxury as the African woman. So I believe that this is another African carryover that we have lent to Europeans. It's not necessary to talk long about religion and the way our people have understood and apply Christianity. It is said, you may disagree, it is said that the black Americans are the only people in history who have really tried to practice Christianity since, of course, the Roman days when people gave themselves up to the lions. When we go to church, we use a particular passion in that church. We have a particular kind of surrender, of belief. If you go into a Negro church, a Black American church, an Afro-American church, I use the words interchangeably, you find there's a feeling that is all, just does not allow itself to be described. You have to see it. When in African ritual ceremonies, when a person goes into a trance, it's the same as when they get the spirit in the Black American churches. The Black American churches the Black Americans have a joy. There's a joy that Black Americans have in praising God, in enjoying Him. We saw it in a revival here in San Francisco.
To me.
Today have drifted away and touching upon things that is really not the core of the problem. I stopped by to tell you that when a doctor closes his office, Lord help me tonight, and comes to church on Sunday morning, he does not come to church to hear the preacher tell him about medicine. He has studied medicine. Are you going to pray with me? When a school teacher shuts down her classroom and gets up on Sunday mornings and leads her way to the house of prayer, she does not come to hear the preacher teach to her. But what they want to hear is the word from God. Is there anyone can help us when the load is hard to bear and we faint and fall beneath it in a love who in tenderness will help us and our heavy burden share just the very blessings that we have. One who understands our hearts when the thorns of life had pierced them till they bleed. And while he was asking the question, he sat there and looked at the wind blowing, looked at the leaves meeting, and said, yes, there is one, only one. But I want to tell you something. The purpose that Jesus came was to change your way. Lord help me tonight. I surrender all to Him. I'm free to give. Forever love and trust Him, and in His presence daily live. Yes, the old folk used to sing the song and said the things I used to do, I don't do no more. moaning. Hey. Wannabes moaning. When God, the righteous judge, to rock the gavel of time, put one foot on the sea and the other on dry land.
If he lead me.
My heart's been made to bleed. Come unto me, all ye and the heavenly and the passing by. When I reach for friends, they were nowhere to go. I had someday. You can stop it from me. I'll tell you how to phone. You can put your pistols in my face. Until my heart is shaking. Lord, give us a revival and let it begin in me. Good night. Shake hands with your neighbors and kiss somebody that you don't like. God bless.
Kiss somebody you don't like. Doesn't that remind you of the blues? Kissing someone you don't like, or not getting a chance to kiss somebody you do like. Black Americans say the blues ain't nothing but a good man feeling bad. The preachers and the blues singers are the poets of the Black American world. They write such purple blues, such beautiful words. There's one blues that says, "Don't the moon look lonesome? You see it shining through the trees. And don't your house look lonesome when your baby packs up to leave?" Now that's poetry. And when that minister said a few minutes ago, he wants to be born until his hands are new, born until his body is new, born until his thinking is new, born until his faith is new. This, we must see here this rhythmic beauty, which is poetry. There is a blues that says, "Just give me the key to the highway. I'm ready and I'm bound to go. And I'm going to leave here running because walking is most too slow." Oftentimes we don't really listen to the blues. There's one blues that says, "She's got long black hair and her hair hangs down like a horse's mane." Now that's really supposed to be some pretty hair in that man's idea. The man says, "I bought her 2 gold teeth and I put earrings in her ear. And now she's messing around and she's going to run me away from here." Now, if that's not poetry, I don't know what it is. There's a blues that says, "If you don't believe I'm sinking, look what a hole I'm in. And if you don't believe I love you, then look what a fool I've been." Mr. B.B. King is certainly the king of the blues. And we went to hear him the other night.
I've been downhearted, baby, ever since the day we met. I've been downhearted, baby, ever since the day we met. What a pity. You know, our love is nothing but the blues, woman.
with you, woman, and you are jealous when we're apart. Well, I say you evil. You're so evil when I'm with you, woman, and you are jealous when we're apart. How blue can you get, woman? The answer's right here in my heart. I gave you a brand new Ford, but you said, I want a Cadillac. I bought you a $10 dinner, and you said, thanks for the snack. I'll let you live in my penthouse. You said it was just a shack. I gave you 7 children, and now you want to give them back. Yes, I've been honest. The blues. Baby, how blue can you? Yeah. Thank you.
What is it? What is the common element between the blues, the old blues, and this new rock that people, you know, that's popular?
Well, boy, you really asked me one then. The best that I can try to distinguish between the two is the regular old blues doesn't have the beat that the new rock has. The rock has the beat of the church, in a way of speaking, of well, this is the feeling that I used to get when I was in church, and maybe I'm saying it wrong, but if I have to be quoted, I'll say that this have the beat like we used to have in the sanctified churches back home. When I say back home, back down south where I was born. But the blues have the melody part, the spiritual melody, which give you that, you know,
Double up.
yeah. But the rock has the feeling, of course, but mostly with the beat, the beat, you know, where you can move about. But the blues doesn't have it.
Now, Mr. King, I wonder, when you begin to compose a blues, do you think first of the rhythm, or do you think first of the melody, or do you think first of the words?
The words.
And you set them in.
Later on, I set them in. For instance, I get an idea, and I'm writing a story, really. You know, I'm thinking about what have happened and trying to put this thing together. For instance, like I'm talking about shoes, for instance. Then I'll try to figure out what, do people walk on them? How long they last? Do you have to lace them up or what have you? Other words, my story is based upon the shoes. Then after I get my story together, in other words, you know, paint my little picture in my mind, then I will start to try and play a beat with it. And then after the beat, then I start to thinking about the changes, how it should sound and what have you, and how the band should play it.
You see, that's poetry. That shows that you are not only a poet in your music. No, it's true. It's the way poetry is done. I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we'll be finished. The question is, what is the blues? Now, wait, Mr. King. One of the things I'm interested in here is the relationship of the blues to African music. So you don't have to, unless you feel it, you don't have to deal with that directly. But I would like to know, what do you say the blues is or are, whatever it is?
Oh, boy. You know, well, I'll tell you, I've never been to Africa, but I can say this. From what I've read, when the Negro, the so-called Negro, was brought to America, there were a lot of people very spiritual, I'll put it like that. At least they'd been taught to be so. And some of the guys felt by praying to God wasn't turning them loose. So instead of just singing, like God help me, this guy was having problems, like his old lady's been taken away and what have you. And he's sad about it. So he started to sing, instead of singing to God, he was singing about what was happening to him, hoping that maybe God would hear him, yes, but this didn't seem to work with the other brothers that were supposed to be real spiritual or holy or what have you. So he was just singing to himself. And then my feelings is that we've heard that ladies will cry when something happened to them. A man won't cry on the outside, but he usually cry inwardly. So I personally, the way I feel when I have blues, when I not sing them, I'm talking about when I have them. Mm-hmm. When something have gone wrong somewhere or other, with me or with some of my friends or just the surrounding, well, I feel it inwardly, and I sing about it. I just have to, a lot of times you don't have friends to talk with, so you just sing. You sing about it. You sing because this hurts. It hurts inside, like so many things hurting today. I mean, it bothers me. There was a time when something could happen in Europe or Asia or Africa or someplace. We never knew about it until maybe 6 or 8 months later. But now today, everything happened, you know about it right away, just like your friends around you. Something happened, and maybe you can't go, I can't come to you and say, well, it happened last night. Because maybe it might be one of those funny type of things that I feel that you may laugh at me about it. So I'll get out to myself and I sing about it, and eventually it becomes a song. Well, a melody will come to it, come to you to sing this particular something with. And I think this is how it begins, really. And I think this is the way it begun.
And you build up from the ground, so good looking, baby. And you build up from the ground, and whenever I see you, baby, my love starts coming down. Now you don't stop time, baby. Don't mind sometimes. Don't my time, baby. Don't mind sometimes. And the reason I love you, woman, you got those dreamy eyes.
Now, certainly that was the blues. You've seen traditional blues, which Mr. B.B. King sings, and traditional religious music. I'd like to sing you a song that was written by two young black geniuses, if that's the plural of genius. Mr. Max Roach and Mr. Oscar Brown Jr. wrote a blues. It has the traditional feeling, but it's modern. It's 5/4 time, and it has a kind of political significance. It's driver man, he made a life, but the mammy ain't his wife. Chopping cotton, don't be slow, better finish off your roll. Ain't but two things on my mind, driver man and quitting time. Driver man, the kind of boss, rider man and lead a horse. When his cat is 9 tail flying, You'll be happy just to die. Run away and you'll be found by his big old red-bone hound. Paddy roller, bring you back. Make you sorry you is black. Ain't but two things on my mind. Drive a man and quitting time. Ain't but two things on my mind. Drive a man and quitting time. Ain't but two things on my mind. Drive a man and quitting time. Now that's a new blues, new old traditional folk song, written by two brilliant young black men. When we started this program, I started talking about African carryovers, the positive African carryovers in black American current day life. Now on the next program I shall deal with negative African carryovers, and my suggestion to the black American is to cut them out ruthlessly, recognize them, admit them, and cut them out as ruthlessly as a surgeon cuts out rotten tissue, unceremoniously. As I opened the program, I began with a few lines from an old poet, a dead poet, I'm sorry to say, Mr. County Cullen's poem Heritage, and I think I shall close the same way. What is Africa to me? One 3 centuries removed from the lands my fathers loved. Spicy grove, cinnamon tree, what is Africa to me? All day long and all night too, one thing only must I do, cool my pride and quench my blood, lest they perish in the flood, lest a hidden ember set timber that I thought was wet, burning like the driest flax, melting like the merest wax, lest the grave restore its dead. Not yet has my heart or head in the least way realized that they and I are civilized. What is Africa to me? Join me next week, and we'll continue to talk about Africa and black Americans. Thank you. Babafururu erereo, owo kanyenye eleibo, eleri fumbati wasao, eibo rere bati wao, enuwa ye iagwao. Eya queloro ia mille orun ia mille orun ia popoade o de mi saramabo ia mille orun babapururu erereo o kanyenye lebo ele